Truth.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you.
So, namaskar and thank you for all of you for inviting me. And a special thank to Kevin Call for hosting me today. And he called me. I'm an author of 11 books. And I'm speaking on a topic which is, these are my books which you can see. So in this conference, when I was given a topic to come and speak on this, I was thinking what to tell a business community. I have been in business in this country for a very long time, and recently I turned author 4 years back, and I've had so far all my books as bestsellers on Amazon, and my books are available on Barnes & Noble and mainstream American stores, bookstores. So bringing the awareness of business community towards the ancient history of the world. Now we all know that most of the academics in America, and I speak very critical of them, that most of the academics in America and USA, they work on a very convoluted European vision of the world history. Now I see no problem in that from their perspective, but from the native perspective, from an Asian perspective, that's a big problem. Like for example, when a European lens is applied to the history of natives from Africa. I heard some speakers from Africa today, just before I came, and that is a history going on. So there is a famous quote by Desmond Tutu. Now Desmond Tutu, we all know, he was in South Africa. He said, earlier we had the land, they had the Bible, and now we have the Bible, they have the land. So throughout the world history, it has been seen that the entire struggle in the world has been for land, resources, and the control of business. These are the three struggles we have seen throughout the history. These three were the basis for colonization as well. So I'm closely connected to many academics, being through the American school systems, and studied what they teach actually. So the word which really caught my attention was mythology. And I started researching into the origins of that word mythology. Now mythology, we all know, is a combination of two words, myth and logos. Like if you want to make a change in somebody's identity, then you have to actually get into their language, just like the Indians have done, that they have gotten deep into the English language, and they have understood what is the inner connotations of each and every word. So when I was studying the word mythology, very simple word, but this word has created an epic tsunami in the academic world and in the history of colonization. It is made up of two words. One is called myth, which comes from the ancient Sanskrit, which is M-Y-T-H in English, but Sanskrit is in Devanagari is ma, chodai ki matra, and tha. That's the Sanskrit word on that. So myth means a fake lie or imagination. That's an origin for many words in Hindi language or Sanskrit language. And they combine with the Latin or Greek logos. Logos means a study or science. So the mythology becomes the science of fake lie or imagination, or the study of fake lie or imagination. Now when I found this word, and I was wondering, if I have to talk to a Harvard professor, which I do talk every day, or a couple of days after I had blasted them enough on my YouTube channel, and then I speak to them and I ask, what is the antonym of mythology? There was no antonym of mythology. And then I came up with, if due to all the etymological rules, I thought that the closest word which comes to the opposite of myth is Sat. And in Sanskrit is Sat. In English, you might mispronounce it as always, S-A-T, Sat. You will say Sat. But anyway, the pronunciation is Sat. So, and then for etymological reasons, I had to combine with additional T. It became Sattology. And it becomes the science of truth, a study of truth. Now in this forum, I'm not here to tell you what the meaning of Sattology should be, but you should know. One of the important pillars of identity in the world. And I know we are living in a blue state, and identity politics plays a big role here in this part. But I'm talking about different kind of identity. Like when we talk about self-confidence or self-awareness, or we talk about the business, business communities when they come out and they say, stand with confidence and speak openly, like these kind of talks go on. The important aspect of self-confidence is identity. Because self and confidence, both of them deal with a pride. Like what have you achieved? What have you done? Or what have you done so far? And that is the building block of an identity. Now my books are on ancient history, focused on geographical proofs of ancient texts of India, Ramayana and Mahabharata, and proving them where all those places are there today. Because this is not being taught in the American campuses. American campuses, they look at the world history. First of all, the world for the Europeanism or Europeanistic thought process is just linked to US and Europe. For them, the world ends over there. But we all know, recently when there was a UN resolution on Russia-Ukraine war, the voting percentage against the resolution, if you calculate by the world population, was 56% against the West, so-called West. But the number of countries which voted for the West were more than the number of countries voted against. But in terms of population, so 60% of the world is outside the gambit of US and Europe. Now you may ask me a question, why was that so? And again, the answer goes back to the academics. When we go to the academic world, and we study the campuses, like what they teach, the world history, the world culture, the world religions, they have a very narrow focus. And that focus is just linked to their part of the world or the history that matters to them. And we all know where the colonization started. It started from Europe and gradually came to other parts of the world. And thanks to the colonization, today I'm speaking English. And English is one of the principal languages spoken by only 4% of Indians in India. And even because of 1.4 billion people, we still make up a large number, right? So in today's, you're all educated, you may be successful, or you're trying to be successful in business world, and some of you I can know that you guys are very successful. Now, in today's world, the movement of business is changing. Earlier it used to happen that the movement of the business, the flow of the capital used to happen from Asia to Europe. Now the flow of capital is going to happen within Asia. It's not going to come to Europe all the time. It's not going to come to USA all the time as well, because we have played our sanctions card too hard. Now coming back to the academics here. See, the US in this part of the world, we are still talking about the old 19th century topics, about the freedom for women. This is 19th century medieval topic. In India today, a tribal leader is the president of India, and she's a woman from a deep interiors of India. I don't think so the US will ever happen that we have Native American as the president of the United States, and I'm not being political. We have to recognize the fact that India has always set a benchmark for the world. When the British lost India, they lost the British Empire. And the same thing is going to happen in the US if there is not good politics. Now, I'm not a political guy. I'm just an author. And I've published 11 books. And I will now take you back into the ancient history, where the trade routes, the 16th century, when the Europe was in diapers, at that time, India was having the world share of the trade. In 16th century, India's share of world trade was 45%, not 26%, 45%. Today, US is the richest country of the planet. Not even China. China was in diapers at that time, because they were still struggling with the Ming dynasty and the Qing dynasty. And today, the share of the world trade today in US, you will be shocked to know, in last 3 years, it has decreased by 1.5%. That's a big number for the US economy. So from 23% today, they're 21.5%. Obviously, the American media won't tell you, because the academics over there, they're saying, don't tell the truth to the Americans. Let them live in the abyss of false priority and the false pride. As an American, as well as Indian origin American, my duty is to tell the academics the right picture. And that's what since Kevin called me, I'm here. So one of the important aspects is the world trade and the world trade routes were well known to people way before Europeans ever discovered it, way before. I will tell you some examples. In the 9th century, Indian merchant ships used to regularly stop at Naples, go all the way to Naples. In fact, the first European, Vasco da Gama, to land in Gujarat port, in Goa, was helped by a Gujarati trader to bring him from the Cape of Good Hope to the Gujarat Porbandar. But what is being taught in the textbooks? Textbook says that the US or the Vasco da Gama or we discovered India. No. You were in diapers at that time. The discovery of India is not discovery. It's for you it's a discovery. For Europeans it's a discovery, but not for the Indians. Indians already knew the path. Chinese travelers were traveling all over the world in even 6th century, 5th century, 4th century. So the whole Eurocentric model has been debunked completely, and we all know the effects of that on the American academic system. So a child, when it comes out of the American academic system, he is still thinking in the 19th century or the 18th century European dreams now. And when it comes out and competes with an Indian student, India has a big problem also, because the investment in the education sector, especially in the ancient history sector in India, is very poor. The private, I'll tell you one example. Just if I calculate the endowment funds of all the universities in the US and put in a lump sum, you will be shocked to know it's $1 trillion. $1 trillion is the endowment fund of all the American universities combined to peddle the lie of European-centric worldview. Now, what happens with the Indian, if you look at the Indian education system, which is very ancient, I'll tell you that in the 11th century, we had Nalanda University. Nalanda University had approximately 100,000 students, bigger than any campus in the world at that time, in the 11th century. Oxford came after the destruction of that university. And I've been telling this to many American professors, and they recognize it, but they don't want to teach it in their campuses. So my movement and my purpose of writing is to teach the Americans the real world history, and that's what we call Sattology, the science of truth and the study of truth. And the benefits are twofold for the American society. Number one, they will come up with new strategies of engaging with Asia. With the oldest civilization, the oldest living city in the world is in India, not in Africa. The oldest living city in the world is called Varanasi, and it has a history of more than the living history of more than 30,000 living history, 30,000 years. And when somebody tells me that the US is 300 years old, I said no. Ask Native Americans first. Native Americans have been living here since ages. 75,000 years is recorded migration from Asia to this country. 75,000 years, and you will be shocked to know that many of you are from Indian origin and some of you are not. The DNA strand, now this is the big thing, because you go to websites and go test your DNA and you'll find out I'm 2% French, 3% Italian, 2% Germanic. And I have one natural question for them. Are you a dog breed or a human? Because dogs have those kind of things. A human has to have a blood. It's like a humanity. Human blood is everywhere. If I have a AB positive and you are B positive, our bloods don't match. But there will be somebody in the room with a AB positive, and easily the blood can be exchanged if I have an issue. Someone has an issue. So the humanity has a different standard than pure animals. And that's where I have a question with even the Darwinian theory. And why I'm telling you all these things, to actually wake you up because you had a good lunch, and so that you know that we are talking facts here. So once you study these theories, man came from monkeys. It was a theory. My father I know, maybe Darwin's father was a monkey. We don't know. My father I know, your fathers you all know, your grandfathers you know, maybe somebody's father was a monkey. And only one person comes to the mind is Darwin. So this is how stupid our education system is in USA. And as an Indian, this is my biggest contribution to the USA by writing all these books, to change the thought paradigm, to change the way we start thinking. We have to be realistic. Like when I'm dealing with Chinese friends or Oriental friends or some other friends and Asian friends, I have to talk on the papers on the basis of some strength or some truth over there. Now come to the point, the second part of my talk. The important thing which I have studied in I've been living in this country for a very long time, and one of the things which I've studied as part of I was in the business like most of you, and I'm still in business. I have some other businesses, companies who are running. And when I used to meet people, and one of the things would come to me that let's go out and have some fun. Now, coming from India, born in Sholapur, Maharashtra, I have a different idea of fun. Either I've been playing sports, but in the night we have a sweet tongue. Most of the people who come from India is sweet tongue. We cannot drink in the night, and drinking is not fun for us because when we drink, we really get drunk and we lose all our senses. So it's not very big fun for us. In the evening time is for us to watch a movie or just get out with our wives or girlfriends or get out, but drinking is not part of the habit. So I said, after a couple of meetings, I said, hey, our drinking habits it doesn't work with my health. So let's meet in the morning. And what business we will discuss in the morning? I said, mind is fresh, we'll discuss in the morning. Now this is a cultural side, two cultures, different interacting. Now I've been to UK many times, and I know the beer pub culture over there. The point which I'm trying to make is that we have Europeanized every aspect of our life by the simple study of the history that is being taught and that is being discussed. And this is the time to change that narrative. I'll give you, in US, the private businesses invest in private campuses. I'll give you some example. Harvard University has a business fund of $77 billion, endowment fund. So they have a lifetime of whether students come or not, they are going to teach. Now, if I compare that to an Indian Institute of Technology, all the IITs which Indian government has set up, the combined wealth or endowment fund of all the campuses is just $3 billion. Just $3 billion. They depend on taxpayers' money to fund their researchers. Now, if this continues, how do you think that India can rise up, or Indian education system can rise up? And recently I was talking to one doctor who invested around $300 million in a private campus in Florida, Indian American doctor. My question to him was, your $300 million in front of $1 trillion, how does it compare? They don't need your funds. There is somewhere else the need of fund is there. And the private companies can make a big change. Most of the times I hear these comments like, India will become a Vishwa Guru, India will become this. Like I said, are you guys lunatics? You have no sense what you're talking? Because there is no money behind it. If there is no money, there is no honey. Period. You have to have funds behind it. This is the world we are living in. We call it the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, or Kali Yuga. So this is the world we are living in. So in order for us to make a real change in the lives of the billions, I love the title of this forum, and thank you Kevin Call for putting a great title, US-India Business Forum, which is a great title. Now, India word is already there in the forum, and the US word is also there. Unless and until we as private heads of businesses and investment managers, and so many people are there, qualified people are there, we begin to put money where it matters, we will not see a change in the society. I'm always in favor of businesses working with the society to make a tangible change in the world. And the biggest tangible change we need is changing the narratives. And that's where I come in. The ancient history, and this is a non-profit, it's a religious non-profit, so some of you will have problems, but the non-profit, the narrative is being set by the academics, and there has to be an alternative to the existing narrative. The alternative to the existing narrative is, if I combine all the population centers of Asia, then it comes out to be around 3.8 billion people, which is little more than the 50% of the world population. And this is where the money also lies, because in the world of social media and small businesses, and each one get one, and creating opportunities for the masses, that's where the investment needs to be made. And my prediction is that the education or the edutech will be the #1 investment destination in next 5 to 10 years. Because why? Because the moods are changing. People are tired of listening to European version of their world history. People are tired of listening to the world history from where nobody knows. How many of you know that how many languages are spoken in Mexico? It's our neighbor, right there. Does anyone has any idea? Practically no. 3,600 languages. 3,600 languages were wiped out by the Spaniards. Wiped out. Ask a Hispanic guy and say, what is his language? He says Spanish. I said, no, Spanish is not your language. Spanish was a conqueror's language. You hated them, Cortez. Mexicans hate the hell out of Spaniards. They're very proud that they are an independent country, and they're richer than Spain today. Richer than Spain. I've traveled a lot to Rio and many Brazilian cities, and I've been to the Native American populations over there. Brazil, if you go to a museum in Brazil, you'll be shocked to know that they do not know who was their Brazilian king in 1493, before 1493. Actually, the Portuguese came there in 1511 and 1512. Before that, they don't know their origin. And I said, why, how is that? It's not being taught. Because if they are taught their original history, they're going to ask their land back. Just to give you a small idea, from Mexico City, it was called Tenochtitlan. Have you ever been to Mexico? I've traveled very widely, so I know. Tenochtitlan. Anyone from Mexico City? Yeah. So Tenochtitlan in Mexico City, just outside Mexico City. 60,000 tons of gold was taken from there in ships sent to Spain. And that's how Spain was built. So as I told them, when you go to Vatican, please, all the gold that you see is all yours. You can take it back. I'll be very happy if you take it back. I don't care. And Incas and Aztecs, we all know the little bit history. Just imagine, these were the poor regions of the world. How much gold was taken out of India? Just imagine. This was considered poor as compared to India. And 60,000 tons was taken in 6,000 ships, because the ships could not carry more than 10 tons in one ship. This was just from one city in Mexico. I said, if that much gold is returned back, Mexico will be 20 times richer than the United States today. And this is the kind of identity. So if I tell this to a Mexican, I've given lectures in Mexico City. In fact, the professor or the Secretary of Education, Professor Ram Meena, is an Indian. So Indians are writing their history too. Now we have to start writing history of this country as well. Because what happened to Native Americans, unless we acknowledge as a business community, we are living in a land, this you'll be shocked to know, Los Angeles and San Diego were three communities, just three Native American communities. And they were divided whimsically by the Spaniards first, and the 30 British soldiers defeated the entire Mexican army. That was in Flagstaff, that's on our flag right now, over there. So we are living in that land, and where are those Native Americans? Where are those? Because the real history has not been taught. There is no money invested over there. There is no money given to propagate the Native American history from their point of view. From our point of view, great. We conquered them, we have the land, we are the discoverers, we are the conquerors, we are the rulers, and we have democracy. And there is a story about that. In 1908, there is a very famous papal bull by the Pope in Vatican. He said, 1908, he said, now the conquest of America is over. It said, I'm just going to summarize a little bit. It's in Latin actually, but I'm going to summarize. That now the conquest of America is over. This is the right time to introduce democracy. I call it democracy, because now the majority European settlers in the northeastern 13 states were more in number than the Native Americans. So you must just calculate. If at 15 million they are more in number, then how much they have to kill to reduce it to less than 15 million? This is the history. Now, how this is important today, because it's all history. Now it's all done. But this version is not being taught in our campuses. This version is not there. When I wrote my first book, Gold, Glory and God, on this aspect, Gold, Glory and God is a papal bull on the authority of which all this conquest was done. They whimsically divided east of Atlantic, west of Atlantic, as if everything was just belonged to them. And we are still living here, looking up to Europeans as, oh, please guide us, Godfather, please guide us. This should not be our case, because the wealth came from Asia, wealth came from India, wealth came from China, wealth came from other parts of Asia. Dutch became Dutch East India Company, the richest company ever existed on this planet, way more richer than Apple or Google or all of them combined, was a Dutch East India Company. And their major source of revenue was from Kolkata port. And Jahangir, the Mughal emperor, used to give them everything. And what they used to give Jahangir? 2 beautiful Dutch women and some gold and some European clothes. This is what he was paid. That's why when the Mughal dynasty got ended, only they had left was a pair of clothes. The rest everything was taken away by the natives. Natives of India are Hindus. So my point is, this is how history shocks you if you don't know, or if you don't know the history. I'll give you another example. If somebody is from Africa, in my book, the entire country of Ghana was sold for 12 slaves and 7 ducats. Can you imagine? 7 slaves and 12 ducats. Ducats was the currency. 7 slaves. That's how expensive the slave trade was. How expensive. Now, this is the history completely ignored in our textbooks. And then when a student goes inside, and normally all the students, I see my kids also, they're walking on their cell phone, they don't care. Okay, I'll pass the exam, this is over. No, but what they are doing over there in the academic system is that they're completely poisoning the minds. The colonization is starting from there, and rest all of us are just followers. This is a time for private businesses like this forum. This is a fantastic forum we have to make a change now. Let's use our money to bring into our education system which speaks the truth. I'm not against anyone. I'm not against any community whatsoever. And I really don't believe in the color of the skin, because I think my golden brown skin is the magnificent skin. Okay?